Honey, have you seen the time? I thought you were making a video today.
So let's do it then. Here's the thing I thought could be fun for today. I don't think our garden's very colourful at the minute. For me, it's the end of May, June when I feel like our garden comes alive. So it's like, so I kind of don't really feel it's show-offable. But...
Newborn in a barn, can you close that door? It's bloody cold.
Sorry. Yeah, more on that. But obviously we all have different takes on this because this is a worldwide audience on this channel, and we're all at different stages of the year in terms of our garden and our weather. Some of you guys are under snow right now. Some of you have had frozen ground for months. Yes, we get freezes and frost and very, very occasionally snow. Mostly for us at this time of year, it's just wet and quite often windy. So we're probably further ahead than a lot of you guys. So I thought, why not then? Let me show you what our garden's like now on the 3rd of March. So you can see the beginnings of things for us. Now, it is mostly spring bulbs that are up in our garden at the minute. Some are flowering, most are just leaves. And we have a lot of evergreens in our garden deliberately because we want some sort of colour. So let's start with that. Oh, but given I know there's an awful lot of new guys here who won't have caught up on all the videos yet and don't know the story, let me explain how this is going to work, because there's kind of a thing to our garden tour videos. We don't have a massive garden. Basically what you see is it. But we have a back and a front garden. And what we've done is we've split them into areas themed around kind of what we plant in them, and quite often for our garden about light, because most of our back garden's actually in shade. So we have this. This is a plan of the garden that Kate drew a few years ago that I'm going to use as I go round, and I will tell you what area I'm in. Now, you will get to know the names of the areas in our garden because we always use them in videos. And now you'll be able to work out in your head where I am when I talk about them. So we're going to start out front because there's actually less out there to talk about. So let's go. The driveway at the side of the house. So this connects the front and back of the house, front and back gardens if you like. There's not a lot here because it's kind of just the driveway. But this bit here is actually where our bins live, and it's really ugly having bins open that everyone can see. So Kate basically framed them in. She just built this paneling that hides them. But then we decided it's kind of dull, it's a bit rubbish. So we've planted it up. So there's 2 planters here. It was just one. This one got moved, so there's 2 box planters. Japanese laurel, because it does really well in shade and sun, doesn't need a lot of looking after. But for us, we love the whole variegated leaf thing. It means even when it's just green and there's no flowers at that time of year, you've still got interest that's not just flat. So, you know, all the leaves are kind of different on this. They've got these spotted patterns. They've all got different shades of greens and yellows. Love it. We can't really grow much under it because it shades everything out, even though this isn't full sun for the second half of the day, because that's due south. So at the minute, there's some foxgloves under there that I sowed last year, and hopefully they'll flower this year. They'll probably get moved, to be honest, because they'll go scraggly here and won't look great, but it was ground cover. In front here, there is what's left of the violas that I sowed them end of summer last year, so they've been coming on over winter. So they're just kind of going now. We've got some flowers on them. Some flowers have passed. But, you know, in winter here, violas and pansies, that kind of thing, are reliable. They'll grow, and if they've got flowers, it gives you a bit of colour. They don't flower an awful lot in winter, but kind of autumn and early spring, they will. It's something. So we do that a lot in our garden. You'll see a lot of these kind of winter bedding type plants all over. And of course, Kate's hellebores. You know Kate loves her hellebores. So there's a couple here. We have these dotted around. None of them quite have a specific home yet, because Kate's still finding her way with them. And we keep finding random ones that she saves and moves. I think one year I'm going to put these in a bed proper, because they are fab. It's just unfortunate though, because they flower at this time of year, late winter, very early spring. And the rest of the year they're just leaves. But yeah, driveway, oh yeah, that. Sweet Williams. Nothing there just now, but they will come back. Interesting thing about that though, Sweet Williams, dianthus. In Scotland, they also get called Stinking Billy. Reason being, they are named after, let's just say, a military person in history who's not popular with a lot of people in Scotland. I'll let you look that up. As I said, there isn't actually an awful lot going on out front at the minute. We're in a kind of thought process with the front garden. We're actually thinking of making changes. So we've held off from planting anything out here this year. But we have got some random things coming because I want to show you what's here. Quite often what happens is any random big pots we have get shoved out here. Mostly because the front garden is south facing, so it gets baked in summer, and I use that term relatively speaking for us, and things tend to do a bit better out here because they get a lot more sun. We have these 3 pots here that we've maybe not shown you. These are pots that came from Colourful Corner when we replaced it with a big planter that we built, the big stepped planter, and because it was 3 big massive pots with no real planning, we've just kind of went a bit weird. Right, so the main plant you can see is a Fatsia. I can't even remember the story behind this. Fatsia, I do not remember how this came to be. I think Kate saw it and just really liked it in a garden centre and we brought it home. It is completely hardy for us. So apparently they're hardy, I think, down to about -15, which is easy for us. We don't really get down past -10. And that would be crazy. So they're fine, but they do get kind of burnt by the frost and stuff, even though they'll survive. So it's not looking at its best just now, but hey ho, we have neighbours just a few streets over that have massive, beautiful ones in their garden. So we know it will do okay here. But the problem is, under it, there are so many bulbs. The reason being, we had these big empty pots, but we also were doing quite a bit of shuggling around as we built Colourful Corner. And also we tidied up the planters that are in the situtery, which is right at our patio doors. So we ended up with lots of old bulbs, and it was winterish. So we didn't know what they were because there were no leaves or anything. So we just planted them. And the whole point is we're just going to watch and see and work out what they are. And we'll probably have to move things. First ones to move are going to be under here because they're completely shaded out by these big leaves on the Fatsia, and it's just pointless them being there. They're not getting the light. They're going to go really leggy and horrible because they're not getting the light, and we can't see them. So I'm probably going to have to do that this week or so. This is a rhubarb and custard tulip. See, little tiny tulip. So there's a few of them in these pots. These are some of the first things we ever planted in this garden. These little guys have been going for probably 11 years or so. So yeah, it's quite cool that they still come up. Lots of other things that look like tulips going by the leaves, but obviously it's not time for them yet, so we'll have to wait before we get flowers. So you can see what I was saying about how there's lots of stuff under the Fatsia that can't be seen. So we have, look, little crocuses. There's a grape hyacinth there, there's some tulips, there might even be some alliums. Okay, Kate's planters. So there are bulbs in there just now, not as much as in previous years. Because we did the change about so much, everything got really disturbed. So this year's going to be a bit of a settlement period for those bulbs, and they won't do as well. Although it'll be interesting to see how they come up. But yeah, I'll show you what it's like just now. So you can see there's a lot of tulip leaves all the way along. Oh, bird feather. So there's a lot of tulip leaves all the way along, you can see. And you can see the odd dot of white, yellow and purple violas. Remember I said we have them around? There are some plants that are coming back. So some of the perennials, like the Rebecca, are starting to put out foliage. Be a long time yet before we see any proper flowers or anything on these. These are drumstick alliums. Now, these take forever to grow. But they will get very, very tall with little purple flowers on top. And the thing is, the flowers last forever. So they take forever to flower, but it is so worth it. And also the height is quite nice here. Other than that, I suppose it's about the rockery. Now, up until kind of mid-spring, it's pretty much just these little white guys and some purple crocuses. And there's a heather at the front. After that, this can be a wall of purple, just with all the different plants in here. But we've also got a few things that we've decided are just invasive and they're taking over. Just some of the alpines have just spread too much and it's taken away a lot of the colour that was here. So the plan for this year is to actually redo this completely. So yeah. Hence, we haven't really got much going on in here just now because we've deliberately left it, which now annoys me. So that's out front. Seeing as I've already mentioned Colourful Corner and the Statutory, which is this whole bit, let me start here and very quickly show you what's here. Because again, it's not established yet. We only built this a few months back. So there are a few bulbs in here which you can see are coming up. The first of those to flower, right beside Kate's hellebore here, was these irises. You can see the purple with the yellow. It's a bit of a story with those. Kate's mum was a fan of irises, so she planted lots of irises around the garden. It's the reminder of her mum. But we also have the odd little rhubarb and custard tulip still here, because of course they were in this area to start with. So as we transplanted, some of them are still here. But mostly what you'll see are alliums and tulips and all the leaves. But it's kind of that thing, just lots of potential, you know it's coming. However, remember I showed you guys about lasagna bulb planting, where you plant in layers? Here it is. So we have had lots of crocuses so far already, and you can see some of them are past, the rain's got them, but there's more coming up. We've also got, as you can see, some daffodils coming up, and there's tulip leaves. So there's going to be stuff coming up here for a long time to come. But that's the whole point. Colour at different points throughout the spring months. Now, there are some little leaves coming through, just breaking the surface in that pot, which I suspect is going to be tulips. You can see here, I mentioned the rhubarb and custard tulips that we planted when we first moved here. This is the other ones. These were Red Riding Hoods, just little red tulips. And again, I mean, you can see they look a bit poorly compared to the other ones. Again, about 11 years old. So we'll see what comes up with these this year. But yeah, and random violas. Tell you what, there's still more of the colourful things to show you, so I'll make that last. I'll show you the fence bed, because that is the most colourful part of the garden just now. But what we'll do is we'll just go this way, because I'm going to show you some things over here in the kind of vegetable garden area, which is probably a bit, I was going to say a bit of a change, but it's probably more that you guys didn't realise what we were doing here, especially if you've not been with us for a good few years. So let's go that way next. Three beds. You guys know the arbour is new and that bed has recently been slimmed down. So that one, the plan is it will be where the tomatoes go in summer, but it'll be probably June before we get anything in there. But this first bed then, we've got a rhubarb here, It's a temporarily early. I've moved it here. We've had rhubarb for years in the garden. The first lot, Kate drowned. She put it in a big tub and forgot to drill drainage holes and drowned it. And then she got this temporarily early about 3 years ago, and it was in a pot over on that side of the garden in the shade. So it never really did anything. Now, we like rhubarb, so I've decided I'm going to give up half of this bed for the rhubarb. So it's in here. It won't do much more than establish this year because it's basically been mistreated. But hopefully next year it'll really start to be super healthy and we might actually get a crop from it. Fingers crossed. Next to it right now is the last of our winter veggies. So at late summer we sow things like pak choy, tat soy, mustards, broccoli rabs, all those kind of things that I can get established and then be cropping over winter, and they survive in our garden out here and in the greenhouse because they're hardy for us. This is the very last of them, and they're going to get picked today because they're going in a stir fry tonight for dinner. But the idea being that this side of the bed will become the onions for next year. Beside me, here, this is one of my blackberries. So we've got 2 thornless blackberries. We actually call them brambles here in Scotland, but you guys know them as blackberries, or at least the majority of you guys know them as blackberries. They're thornless varieties, so they're cultivars that basically have been bred by our institute here in Scotland for people to grow in their gardens, and there's no thorns. It's fabulous. 2 varieties, I've got one here and one there, Loch Tay and Loch Ness, and we train them along the fence. Now, here's the thing. They're in these pots or big long planters because brambles and raspberries are weeds in Scotland, in the term that they just will take over. They're incredibly invasive. Even though they're fabulous and you get fruit off them, they will completely take over. And if we don't have them in these planters, they'll just, because they go underground and they will put out shoots into the neighbours' gardens and they'll come into the raised beds and things. So they're in containers and I manage it this way. So we have this one here. This one is not as vigorous. This is Loch Tay. It's never ever been as vigorous as Loch Ness. But, you know, But the good thing with these is they are really, really big berries, much, much bigger than any of the blackberries you get out in kind of wild cultivars. And they're super sweet. So this one is a bit bigger. You can see it's already coming all the way along here on the fence. And what we do is, as it grows, we just tie them in along these wires. And it looks awesome when it's all here in kind of late spring, early summer, and it's all green. And then you get the little white flowers, and then you get the fruit, and it is fab. So we do love that. So we call that our fruit fence or fruit garden. And this main bit we call the veggie garden. But next, this one then. Aha, no. I've got something here, but you'll have to come over. You'll need to, because you can't see. Come on. 4 fabric pots of garlic. However, as you can see, this one has nothing, and these all have leaves. Now, here's the thing. It's a bit hit or miss for me with garlic this year. The lovely Pammy, Garden of Whedon, gave me all of my garlic this year, so very little of it is actually varieties I would normally grow. I don't know what to expect with them, but they all sprouted really, really early for us, so they've taken a bit of a hammering over winter. And there's some here that's all gone mushy and fallen over. All of them have got frost damage. We'll just have to see how they go. I've got some more over there I'll show you as well. But on both sides, we've got 1 bag on each that hasn't sprouted yet. I don't know if that's because it's a later sprouting variety, because the garlic I usually grow is much later to sprout. But we shall see. So we'll nip over here and I'll talk about this bed and I'll show you the other garlic. This bed then, as you can see, strawberries on this side. Weed. So half a bed of strawberries. It's going to be part of a big experiment I'm doing this year. I know strawberries do really well in the raised beds for me here because they get lots of sun here, lots of nutrition from being in the raised beds, lots of space. I've tried them in different parts of the garden and different kind of growing situations, and it hasn't been as good. So this year, I've got some in this bed, and the rest of this bed is going to be my, well, it's kind of where I'll plant spring onions and lettuce and spinach and that kind of thing. And I'm going to do it as a square foot garden style because it's just this wee small space. But the rest of that experiment then is actually the green stock. I'm going to have 2 layers of strawberries, the same strawberries, actually from the same batch in there. And we'll just compare and see how they do. So both of them are now in their 2nd year. And I've got a set of pineberries as well. It's a whole story behind that. But it's this way is to compare and see how they do different growing situations. But garlic I mentioned. So we have garlic here, which is probably the biggest and strongest of all of them. Elephant garlic here, so it's coming up. But I have to be honest with you guys, again, it just looks like it's really been hammered by winter and they're not looking brilliant. Middle big bag here, nothing coming up. Again, it may be that it will come up later in spring, or they may just have turned to mush and there's nothing in there. We'll just have to wait and see. Loch Ness thornless blackberry. So this is one I was saying is much bigger and has already grown all the way along. So these have been pruned for this year. And that's the thing, with your blackberries, they fruit on the most recent canes. So the ones that grew last year and are now tied in are the ones that will give me fruit this year. The canes that had fruit and flowers on them last year, I have now cut back to ground level. They won't give me fruit. Simple as that. And then later in summer, I'll probably just take maybe a foot off the ends to encourage lots more side shoots, more flowers and fruit that way. That's the plan. This bed is empty, as you can see. This is where the tomatoes will go. At the moment, I'm just checking the soil nutrition in this one because I didn't amend it this year because we did that whole move thing. So I just want to double check on, is it going to be good enough for my tomatoes or am I going to have to do some work on it? Yeah, so that little space here is the chillutery. Gardener Scott, chill-out-ery. You keep getting it wrong, mate. Chillutery, let's go. I had planned to sit here to do this clip, but it's wet and I'll get a wet bum, so I'm not gonna. But as you can see, we have got some pavers sitting here ready to go. Once the weather warms up and gets dry, because it rains every single day at the minute, the idea is that we'll then get this all sorted out and these pavers put in place, and they'll go along here. And then we've got some to go at the back as well, just to extend this little seating patch. And that was the whole point of doing this bed, of making more narrow, thinning. You know what I mean? This bed. So we can still grow the tomatoes in it. That was the plan anyway, because we needed the height for that. But it's given us this little bit extra space for our seating area, because this is where we love to sit, because in the evenings, this is the last bit of the garden that's all nice and warm and a nice place to sit. So there's still work to be done here, but that's for later in the year. It's also where the green stock lives, pretty much because, one, the types of plants that I'm growing in it needed sun, and this stretch of garden here is the only bit that gets sun. It gets sun from that direction in the morning and from there in the evening, because the house shades that whole bit of garden. So that's why I always talk about how the biggest issue in our garden is not enough sunshine. But it turns, which is great, because it means every morning we come out and we give it a quarter turn so that all of it gets evenly sunshined on. Technical term. But that's why we've got the channel sticker. It's so we can tell where it was yesterday when we turn it, because when we first put it in place, we discovered both of us were coming out and turning it, so it was never getting more than like half a day in the same spot. Yeah. But also, behind me, pallet planter. In fact, come in because I'm going to tell you about this. Now, this space is not finished yet. I'm still making decisions, still testing things. When we first put it in, I put lots of herbs in here because I thought, given this is a sunny spot and it's not the biggest growing area, it's quite narrow, I thought herbs would do quite well. Nah, they didn't. Basically, it doesn't really get anything from the rain because it's vertical and narrow, so the rain doesn't get to it. So I lost a lot of plants. I also tried strawberries, which looked amazing. I loved it as a backdrop when I was filming. This wall of the strawberry plants and the occasional strawberry, it looked amazing. But we really only did get the occasional strawberry. Again, because it's a really small growing space, doesn't get a lot of water, there wasn't much nutrition in there. It needed me to be constantly watering and feeding them, and it was a lot of work. So it's now, because I like the background thing, and this is our seated area, there's a lot of more flowering type plants in here. So I've got a mix. There's some succulents, because I love succulents. There's some Abricia that I sowed last year. All sorts of things. There's my lemon fizz. And it is still an experiment because we're still finding the plants that are going to do well here and look good. Now, what we did do, after I did the video when I said I was so disappointed in it, Pammy got in touch then and said, put a solar watering system in and see how that does. Now, you can see it's been in there since then, and there's a water butt there that pumps it, and I can put feed in that water butt. It's doing all right, it works okay. The only thing is, number one, it hasn't got any sort of way of measuring the water in the soil, so it just switches on and off all the time, even if this is already soaking wet, like in winter. So I have to switch it off in winter, but also it's actually really loud when it goes, so it just is so loud, our whole garden and our neighbours as well. So I'm a bit kind of wary about it. I try and keep an eye on it and what's going on, because I just don't want it really annoying our neighbours. And also, if we're out here sitting, I switch it off because it's really annoying. But at least it's watering and feeding this pallet planter, so that's a bonus. Okay, that way. So the back bed, or the beer garden, the sun garden. I think we've called it both beer garden and sun garden, but basically this bit was our first seating area in the garden, so that's why there's 2 chairs here. It gets that sort of late afternoon sunshine. It tends to lose it in the late evening because it's shaded by the houses, but this was our first seating area, hence the name. We don't sit here anymore because it just feels very exposed, because we're sitting here looking at our neighbours' windows, hence we've moved over into that corner. But in here we have our herb planter. It's a big veg truck, but we discovered, because this gets morning sun, a little bit of early afternoon sun, but it doesn't get the more harsh, proper afternoon sun, it works brilliantly for our herbs, whereas it wasn't great for any flowering and fruiting things that needed a lot more sun. It took us a few years to work out what to do with this area, but really chuffed with it now. Lots of fabulous herbs, and I'm going to bring you in and tell you about that. Behind me is the big raised bed that we built here a few years ago. There was always a much smaller bed, but we raised it, we built it with sleepers and raised it up. And in here there is now the 3 apple trees that you guys saw me plant, which are doing fine, they're okay, they haven't fallen over in the wind or anything. But you can see there are lots of green things here. So if you come in, I'm going to tell you about all the bulbs and things that are in here. And I can see we've got blackbirds and they dig looking for worms, so there's always a little bit of a mess to clear up. Oh yeah, and for anyone who's not in the UK, blackbirds here are not the same as they are elsewhere. Blackbirds here are little songbirds. They're not the big crow type things that you guys in the States get, so they're actually quite nice little things. And their song is just stunning, so yeah, we're quite happy to have them in the garden. Just means tidying up after them. But in here then, we have got a whole mix of things in here that do their thing at different times of the year. So the new thing is the apple trees then. We've moved them from the pots into this bed purely because looking after apple trees or any trees in pots is a lot of work, because they're completely reliant on you for water and nutrition, and a tree needs a lot. So we've moved them into the bed in the hope that it will just make my life a little bit easier. But you can see in here, we have got tulips, hyacinths, daffodils. I think we've even got some muscarian things in here as well. We've got vinca, we've got Rebecca, there is not dianthus. At the back here, there is my 2 and only 2 delphiniums that I sowed last year. It's the only 2 that came up. So they're being moved in here now. We'll see how they go. I don't know how it's going to be. First time I've grown them. But we also have a lot of aqualesias in this bed that get really big in this bed and look amazing. Big, deep raised bed, lots of soil, lots of nutrition, full sun. So they do great. What else? I can't remember the name of those now, the 2 bushes at the back. Chianthus, yeah. So you get lots of different types of chianthus. These are here because we want them to cover that back fence, and chianthus are known for being quite quick to grow and to spread quite nicely. So these ones are the tall variety that will spread, and they get purple flowers on them, and they are actually, we love them. We had one out front for a while, and our neighbours had one that I coveted. So these are in here. Yeah, and I also will put things in throughout the year, so I'll add things like foxgloves, mimulus. What else am I growing? That there'll be sunflowers. I put dahlia tubers in here. So this bed changes up throughout the year. But that's it for just now. So possibly May time is when the tulips in here flower. But I do find this side of the garden, May and June, it is fabulous. Okay, so you're not in here with me for a change, because I got a comment this week when I asked you guys what you wanted to see in the garden tour. Someone wanted to see the rest of the greenhouse. Now, I don't know if they just meant, is there anything else going on in the greenhouse? Or do they think that I only show a certain part of the greenhouse? So tell me then, what did you mean? But what you see in the videos is the whole greenhouse. This is it. It's 6 foot by 8 foot. So yeah, that's it. You've seen the rest of the greenhouse. Two trees in the fence bed. Again, you saw me move the apple trees. These were in the bed that the apple trees were in. They're now in this bed in the hope that in very early spring, kind of end of March onwards, we will get some blossom on these trees. They have pink blossom and they are gorgeous. But for just now underneath, these are all the very early flowering bulbs. So you can see they're all my little tiny daffodils, snowdrops, crocuses, although quite a lot of the crocuses have now passed. They've been and gone, but there's still some in there. But we have a lot of tulips still to come in this bed. And we have things like cyclamen. What else is in there? Cyclamen. There are primulas, because they flower through winter. So we have a lot of them as bedding plants dotted around. And there's other stuff that's just starting to come through. I'm trying to keep off the grass because it's so wet and it's not good to walk on it when it's wet. But there we go. Now, we have, like I said, there are lots of crocuses, snowdrops, and as you can see, lots of the daffodils. You can see there's a lot of leaves about, which are the tulips, the big, big leaves. What else have we got coming up? More daffodils. There are some white daffodils in here that aren't open yet. They're the ones that are just bulbing here, you can see. What you can see here is, that is Kate's astrantia, right here in this corner. It is just coming back. It's a perennial, so it will come back and flower year on year. Beautiful pink flowers on that. Kate absolutely adores it. But we did have to split it the other year because it got so big and it mugged everything. That is Scylla. Gorgeous little thing. Look at that. Quite low to the ground. Little blue flowers with kind of darker blue, almost purple lines on them. First year for them, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how they come on year. Quite excited. But just along from them, and amongst those crocuses there, that is anemones. So there's quite a lot of colour in here just now, just from the spring bulbs. This is another one though, like with the beer garden or the sun garden, This bed changes a lot throughout the year because it's got different types of planting. So the biggest thing you'll see is late summer, sort of usually end of July, kind of August time, there is crocosmia that will be very tall with beautiful bright red flowers on it, and it just makes this a really interesting feature. Now obviously that's all been disturbed with us putting the trees in, so I don't know what to expect this year. How many of them will come back and where will they be? Will they have moved? Will they have suffered? We're just going to have to wait and see. But still, lots of thoughts about changing up what's in this bed, but we have to give it time. We have to see what it looks like with these trees in place and how it's all going to do. Now the last bit of the garden then is that bit there. We call it the sit-ootery. So we have chill-ootery, sit-ootery. Scottish terms. You probably just say patio. And you do know it quite well, but you probably know the bits of it. So obviously table and chairs, which is why we call it the sit-ootery. Sit-ootery is just a joking Scottish term for anywhere in the garden where you have a seating area. It is that whole sit and oot. Here we say oot for out, so sit out, and the eri bit is just like a play on the whole French language thing. Because of that whole old alliance with Scotland and France, we have a lot of crossovers in language. So even in Gaelic, there's a lot of words we use that you can hear a French influence to them. So sit-ootery, chill-ootery, it's just places that we sit. But what you do know here then, this area gets absolutely no sunlight at all, ever. It's shaded by the house and the fence. So the planting in this part has to reflect that. So there are ferns and hostas and things in these planters along the side. There are some random bulbs coming up just now. And again, it's the ones we didn't really know what was going to be in there. Because as we moved things and we changed up the planters, we found bulbs that weren't in leaf or flower. So we've planted things and we're waiting to see what they are. So there will be changes. But there are a few small ferns in there just now and we're waiting to see. Now there is also a little collection of pots here that have some Aquilegia in them. It doesn't necessarily live there. We move pots around and then over winter, when pots are a bit bare and dull, they just get placed in spots, just for storage if you like. So they'll probably get moved up to that end of the garden. Now the one big thing here you can see flowering is my elephant's ear saxifrage. Bergenia is its proper name. But anyway, HMS Dahlia. Much, much barer than you're used to seeing, because this came about kind of flowering part of the year. So it was last summer you really saw it at its best, but at the minute is very much a bed for annuals. We're still deciding what's going to go here and how it's going to work, because it is very much in the shade. And what makes that very evident, and it's one of the things Kate's learning about this year, there are bulbs in this that there are elsewhere in the garden that are flowering, but because HMS Dahlia is so much more in the shade, they're just leaves and they're much smaller. It may be they'll get moved because they don't really work here, but we shall see. So bulb-wise then, you can see there are a few things poking through the surface. So that one I've already shown you in the fence bed. That's the Scilla, much, much smaller here. We do have some snowflakes in here that I'm still kind of waiting to see. I think it might be these little tips coming up. Some tulips and some alliums. So this is really all there is to see in this top bit at the moment. Again, we'll have to wait and see if there's just not enough sunshine on it. If it comes to it, we just move the bulbs. This front section, the only thing that's different is there's one iris here. But again, it's the same sort of idea. There's a Scilla or two and some alliums, and we will need to wait and see. Now, this right-hand side, I don't know what's in it. Let me tell you the story of this. Our friend Baron came to visit from Kentucky last year, and it was horrible. The whole time he was here, it just rained all the time, and we didn't really get any garden fun in. So one day, when the rain stopped for about half an hour, I let him come out quickly and grab bulbs from the greenhouse and plant them in here. So I don't know what he's planted. The idea being, it was his little secret bit of fun, And we will get to find out what he's done when everything flowers. Now, I recognise some tulip leaves and possibly some alliums in there. But other than that, I don't know. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But it'll be fun. And it's our little bit of fun with Baron. So every time we see it, we think about him and his visit. It's quite nice. Made it. That is a massive, I think our biggest bumper episode ever. Enjoy, folks. I'm off for a cuppa. See ya.